Hello and welcome to episode 269 of the Veeam Community Recap. Believe it or not, I'm back. Normal circumstances all around. How are you doing today, Madalena?
Hello, Rick, and hello, community. Yeah, I'm doing well, but how about yourself? You've been on vacation for a week. You look a bit tan, so I'm looking forward to hear all about that.
Yeah, I take good vacations and I take a lot of vacations, so that's good. I just went to coastal Maryland in the U.S., so down by the Chesapeake and then the Atlantic Ocean. Really interesting part of the U.S. It was really nice to get out, and I'll sneak in a picture when we go through our featured content. But yeah, vacations are good, and as normal, continue the community carried on and you had the recap last week. Appreciate you doing that. So, yeah,
Yeah, indeed. I mean, we did only a post, but now we have a lot to cover. It was pretty difficult to pick up some articles. I almost wanted to break the rules because I found some good ones, but then I was like, let's just skip it to the standard level. Maybe next time. Who knows? You
well,
never.
you never know. And on top of that, we have some super big news in the special department. So I think it's time to jump in. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, and we are breaking the rule because I'm going to start with a special picture. This was from my vacation. I do the camper van, like RV camping. That's my car, and then the camper there. We had a night here on this farm. What a view! It was so nice and so quiet. And then this was just behind the picture here was a brewery, and they had a food truck, a pizza food truck. So it was a wonderful night. It looks pretty peaceful, if you ask me.
Yeah, indeed. It looks really beautiful. Such a beautiful place to spend the
Yeah,
night, right? Glad
yeah,
that you enjoyed it.
yeah. This was on the way to the ocean, so we this was one of the nights on the way to the ocean. This was in Cumberland, Maryland, in the U.S. So Maryland's a big state. Anyways, good stuff. Back to serious business. All right, first up with our content is Ken talking about a lab hands-on test with the Veeam Backup and Replication 13.1 beta. I like this.
Yeah, me too. And I think this is actually the first one article that I've seen at the Community Hub, talking about v13.1. So I think there's going to be many more. But happy to, have Ken open the door for us. And this is a really good article with a lot of print screens, and yeah, I'm very curious to see what other people are going to test and how they're going to test it and how they're going to share their perspectives. um, but yeah, with v13.1 getting closer to GA, the community, I'm telling you, is not going to waste time. So yeah, he can basically what he did, he got his hands dirty in the lab. He installed the beta, and he just shows us how it behaves in the real world. um, so in this article, what he's doing, he's just focusing on the basics. If it installs smoothly, how can I connect this with my infrastructure? Are the backups, are those working, and do the restores work as well? And then it seems like, from what I've read throughout the article, that the impressions are positive, and the installation was pretty straightforward, and the interface, he says, it's pretty familiar. The core backup recovery workflows performed exactly how you'd like them to do. I also like that he included, a checklist at the end. So really good stuff in there. And if I'm sure everyone is excited about this release, v13.1. So this article is worth checking it out. And Ken is also inviting us, like to, if you already, like, did your beta, if you already installed it, if you already got some experience with it, to also share it and tell your opinion. And I think I'm inviting you as well, together with Rick, to do the same. So we're really looking forward for what's coming next, to the many articles. And also Ken says that in the next one, he's going to share more findings with us.
Yes. So this is a really good post that does basically a walkthrough of just these installation, configuration, and some testing. It's not really digging into the net new stuff. And I think that's important because there's new capabilities. We announced some of those at VeeamON in New York and London, and we have tricks up our sleeve for Sydney at the end of the month. But this is a really good way to understand how the beta applies, and this is really good stuff. So thank you, Ken. And for those of you who are like, well, how do I get the beta? You can reach out to your Veeam sales contact, and they can give you that, because it is self-supported, meaning your account team supports you on it, right? And that's one of the mechanisms we put to help scale it. So good stuff, but we're getting very, very close to the GA. So this is a good way to warm up to it. So thank you, Ken.
Totally.
All right, next up, Andreas Bullman has a topic with incredibly nice looking visuals, may or may not have AI helping, talking about MFA. And what caught your eye on this one, Maddie?
Well, I think first of all, it's like unusual post. First of all, it's not your usual post that you're going to find at the community hub, but I think it's very interesting, and we've all been there. You are creating a password and you think this is a strong password. You are adding an uppercase letter, a number, maybe an exclamation mark at the end, and think, yep, nobody's getting into this account now, right? So we all been there, I'm sure. And Andreas actually starts there with this story, exactly this story. And I like it because it's something, we can all relate. It's from our day-to-day life and work. And, from he's talking about from the evolution of passwords to today's MFAs. He's explaining not just what MFA is, but, why we've ended up relying on it. So he talks about ton list, push notifications, TOTP codes, even why your authenticator app can generate a code without an internet connection. And then he also brings it back to Veeam, of course, and he explains where MFA makes perfect sense, like protecting the interactive user accounts, and where it actually, you might not necessarily have to use it, or it's actually recommended not to use it, such as the service accounts that need to run unattended. And, that's an important distinction that he's making in there, because that gets sometimes overlooked, as he says. And he says, okay, MFA isn't always convenient, and I know it from my own experience, but that small inconvenience sometimes is what gonna stop a compromised password from becoming a much bigger problem. So if you've ever enabled MFA because someone told you it was a best practice but never really understood what was happening behind the scenes, I think this is one article that you should read. And even he ends in an unexpected way, if you look at it, with a fun fact: who invented the QR code? So I think overall it's easy, light to read, pretty interesting facts. So I really enjoyed reading it. Thank you, Andreas, for sharing.
Oh, the QR code. Masahiro Hara and his team, 1994, Tensor Wave. That's cool. Yeah, I think QR code is a cool technology. I used to do a lot of work in symbology, and yeah, this makes sense. Finder, alignment, timing, and then the data is kind of interleaved. And I like how it's actually much more advanced, because there's a lot more. You can have a lot more detail. So like this symbology has that, that number only. It has a little bit of resiliency in case there's a tear or rip, as long as it doesn't take an entire line out. But there's a whole bunch of error correction logic that's built into QR code, which is actually pretty cool. So you can like what I'm getting at is you can like have a QR code and you can cover up 20% of it, 40% of it, depending on how the error correction is built, and it'll actually still read, which is a nice thing. But this one actually caught my eye the most, Maddie. I want to talk about this one on multiple devices. So, especially for Veeam stuff. So, I use myself here. Let's see if I can pivot a little bit. This kind of works. Uh, I use Awfully, which is an app that does
Mhm.
the one-time passwords. But here's the thing: what if I lost my phone? Okay, so I know you know this, Maddie, but a lot of people may not know this. But I carry a separate phone that is my Veeam identity. All right, so personal Veeam, and I also have Awfully going on there. Right, so all the same things, and I've used that app to move that over so that I have some resiliency. Now I do carry both phones with me, so I'm not really doing 3-2-1 one-time password rule. Wait, I do have it on my iPad at home, but
Okay, there
to
you go.
this point, Andreas is talking about more devices, more risk. Uh, I have some resiliency across it, but just something to think about because if you lost your phone, you had to redo all those. And I mean, I have some on my personal finance accounts. I have my Veeam stuff. I
Mhm.
have like when I say Veeam stuff, I'm talking about Veeam software appliance and Veeam infrastructure appliances, right? So something to think about if you have OTP going on, you might want to have it with multiple devices, but consider the risk of that.
Yep, for sure.
Good stuff, Andreas. Thank you for sharing. All right, I really like what's up next from Mateus Giovanni. I haven't called his name in a while. Good to call this name again. Talking about restoring a physical Ubuntu server to a virtual machine platform using the agent and exporting virtual disks. This is cool stuff.
Yeah, totally. I think with this article, Mateus reminds us of something important. Recovery doesn't always go according to plan,
Mm-hmm.
uh, in most situations, probably. So you mentioned it already. Basically, his goal seems to be like an easy restoration of a physical Ubuntu server into a VMware environment using the Veeam Agent backup. But yeah, the ideal recovery path wasn't an option in here because instead of instant recovery, Mateus had to pivot, export the disks as VMDKs, manually build a virtual machine, and then he discovered that he was still not able to boot it. So, Mateus gives us an interesting perspective here, and rather than assuming the backup had failed, he takes a step back and he looks at the original server configuration and then he starts eliminating possibilities one by one. I think that was his only option at that point, really. And he found out that ABIOS versus EFI uh, were mismatching. So, as I learned going over the article, this can be one of those small details that can be overlooked, especially when you are working under some pressure and you are doing like maintenance. um, and it can, but this can make a perfectly healthy backup appear unusable. So you have to be very careful. You have to check it, double check it. um, and yeah, see where the problem comes. I'm pretty sure that was not fun at all for Mateus, but let us know in the comments, Mateus. It seemed like a very tedious job in there. And we say that a lot, but I think repeating it is not a bad practice. Recovery isn't just about having a good backup. It's definitely understanding the whole environment you're actually recovering it into. So um, sometimes in many cases, the issue isn't necessarily your backup, but it's everything around it. So it's really important to kind of understand how that environment works. So I also at the end really enjoyed the practical checklist of things to verify before you attempt this type of recovery. So really good article, as always, Mateus. He's always sharing good stuff, practical stuff, day-to-day stuff from his own experience, and I think these are very valuable. Thank you very much, Mateus.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add that really comes on to what you were just talking about, Maddie, is so many times people are super familiar with like whole VM recovery and file level recovery, but there's like over 100 other ways to recover when you think
Mhm.
about the agents, Veeam backup and replication, and things like that. So in that situation, it's really nice to have the familiarity of what those other options are. In fact, I had when I talked to the support team about ransomware advice, meaning what do they see kind of going wrong when folks go through a ransomware event. And one of the things is like not having familiarity with some of the other ways to recover. So going through drills like this is really, really helpful, especially when you're not under the pressure. So thank you, Mateus, for this. And glad it worked out okay. And the other thing I'll highlight is this EFI to BIOS conversion, which is one of the roots of the situation here. That is built in, for example, when we do recoveries to the cloud. So it's like in one of those things that it's actually the other way around. I think it's BIOS to UEFI to BIOS versus EFI to BIOS or BIOS to EFI, right? So it's like all those different scenarios. In some scenarios they're fully productized, but in other times we have to take some interventions. So good stuff, Mateus. Thank you for sharing.
Yep.
All right, Vanguard blog spotlight, and I had to look this one up. We got a new blog that we're talking about at Kucha Fresca IT. Tell me if I'm getting that right. Happy to feature Othan Oliveira from Brazil.
Yeah, welcome to the Veeam Weekly Recap. This is definitely the first time we are mentioning your name and your blog, and it's great to have you. I thought this was, even though it's a little bit older, it's from May. We are in July, but I thought this was a pretty good article in here with a good perspective. So, I was like, okay, let's do it. I do see an old logo in there, an old Veeam logo in
Well,
there.
this is AI, and this is actually half old, half very old. This
Yeah.
looks like the 2017 and earlier logo, and this looks like the 2017 to 23 font. But that's what AI does. It's
Yeah.
learning on all the different logos that are out there.
Yeah, we actually used it, in our last Vim 100 show. Matthias put it, but he really wanted that one, the first one, because it just works,
Mhm.
So he really wanted that one. I was like, okay, let's do it. So, yeah. But anyway, Otan is talking about inline malware detection, and we talked previously about this V13 capability. I think in many occasions since we kind of launched V13, but I thought, as I said, he had an interesting approach in this article, so I really wanted to discuss it. Also, I took the opportunity that it was a good article and he was never mentioned to in the recap, so I thought, yeah, for all good reasons, let's talk about it. So he starts by explaining how malware detection has traditionally worked in backup environments where data is scanned only after the backup job has finished. And from there, he explores how Veeam takes a different approach by analyzing data while it's already moving through the backup pipeline. And this way is kind of helping to identify any suspicious activity, um, and discover it on time. Then he goes and he breaks down the two key technologies behind it, the inline scan and then the guest indexing. So he talks about both. And then to make these concepts easier to understand, Autumn uses a really good airport security analogy, showing how both layers work together to reduce false positives and then help you identify which restore points may already be infected. So I do remember when V13 was kind of launched, was GA, everyone was kind of excited about this. I think Shane wrote about it, and we talked. So all the community was pretty excited about this capability. And Oton at the end shares a practical ransomware scenario and then an important reminder that these capabilities aren't designed to replace your EDR or security tools. So that's important. It's just complementary. Um, their role is basically to help you quickly identify the last known good restore point so recovery can begin um, just there. So I thought this was pretty good, very long, very German style, even though he's Brazilian. But yeah, happy to have you and thank you for this great article.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you, Othan. And a couple of things. You might have caught it on the scrolling. The actual text is in Brazilian Portuguese, but I'm doing the browser translation, and you can see this diagram he made does have Portuguese logos or texts. But one thing I want to highlight that's a real important part of it is this checkbox here. So the file detection. Two things. One, I think he mentions it, but this does require that you have file system indexing running on the backup job. So meaning if you don't have file system indexing, this won't kick in. I want to draw your attention to this one because this is actually an additional really interesting area where this box here will do mappings of things associated with TTPs from the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So on this show, I've done a lot of times where I've brought up this KB 4514, for example, and if you click on that actual file, and if you haven't updated it, by the way, it's time to do it, KB 4514. But those indicators of compromise are down here at the bottom. So basically, if this file shows up, that's associated with the TTP of impact. And then, for example, if these other files show up, this is behavior associated with these different areas of impact. And you just scrolling up. Let's take one that I'm a little more familiar with. Yeah, let's do this one, like initial access, right? So some of these things to get into things or credential access, like retrieving passwords, these types of tools, if they show up, they'll be detected. So really good post, Othon. And while we're at it, if you have a Veeam backup and replication server that is not connected to the internet, let's update that file here at KB 4514. All right, now we're going to go over to special department, and I'm saving one for the last. And this one is from you, Madi. I call it the bottom, BOTM, bottom. You probably don't like that. We should probably just call it blog of the month.
Let's just skip it, blog of the month.
Okay. Don't try to make an acronym out of it. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, congratulations, Jason. I think that was a really great article and a great project. So I think everyone agreed. He won with, I think, 8 votes. So just taking the opportunity to thank Jason and everyone that is participating month after month and producing great content that goes to the blog of the month. He already got his badge. Let's see who's next in July for blogger of the month.
Yeah, I love these visuals. They're great. So congrats, Jason. Blog of the month, July 2027. All right, last up in special department, big news at Veeam. The Gartner Magic Quadrant for 2026 is out. You can go to veeam.com and download a copy right here. I can't show it to you on this, but I can talk about it a little bit. A lot of people go to the picture. Okay.
Mhm.
But we did really well. We're really happy about the position, but I really recommend everyone read the stories. There's strengths and cautions for each vendor. There's some areas that really apply to the whole industry, and I want the market to be informed here. So definitely check it out. We're really happy about it. We love the highest ranking on ability to execute. So it's this kind of I guess that would be the y-axis there. So really like that position there. Highly recommend you check it out. I can say myself and so many others on our product teams, this is really what the whole month of March goes to. This
Yeah,
is something we put a lot of work in, and so do the other vendors. I mean, this is not something anyone takes lightly.
for
So,
sure. An important moment for sure.
yeah,
Congratulations, Veeam. Congratulations, team. Congratulations, everyone, at Veeam. And yeah, everyone can just download it from here. But just to mention the strengths, because I think they are really great things that are, they've been developed in the past months 12 months at Veeam, security AI integration with Veeam, cyber extortion, incident response services like Covware, Linux software appliance, so all great achievements. So yeah, there is so much more in there. So just listen to Rick and just go and download it and be informed because it is important.
it is, and definitely encourage you to check it out. And you know what? Talk about it with your Veeam contact. If you have an account team, they've been kind of shared it internally. So definitely check it out, and we'd love to talk more about that. And honestly, congratulations, Gartner. It's a lot of work on their side too. I'm very close, in a professional context to the folks right here. So Mike, Jason, Sankalp, Rizvan, and there's even more to the team there. But thank you all as well, Gartner team. It's a fantastic asset for the industry. All right. Last up, who's new from the desk of Sophia, right next door to me here? We're happy to welcome Plus 99, Red Carpet 1-2, Wilson. Nice. I like that. Red 75. That sounds like a football play. Plankton 82 with Alfred's pick being Alchemist. Love that.
Yeah, straight from Paulo Coelho's
Oh,
novels.
exactly. And so, see if I get this right. I did. I'm getting to be an expert on this new platform. I'm very happy with myself. All
Yeah.
right, Maddie. Well, hey, that's a great list of content this week. And I'll be back next week, believe it or not, as well.
That's good. So normal circumstances for us once again, and who knows the week after,
Oh,
and then
I can
after
do
the
normal week after the 3 weeks in. I don't know. We'll see.
what's going on?
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. This was 269. We will see you next week on 270.